Warning, this video contains spoilers for Mr. Pandaria and opinions that may differ from your own. Hello Internet, this is Chozohana Mike, and this is just a short video. I'll hopefully be making more of these in the future. It's just going to be me rambling about whatever topic I wanted to talk about at the time. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about Garrosh Hellscream. This is what I think of the character's direction, the changes made with Mr. Pandaria, and what I'm wondering about what'll happen in Warlords of Draenor. My main issue with Garrosh is the decision to turn him into a complete villain. I think this choice was made, at the very least, in half because of the huge amount of negativity Blizzard got from players during Cataclysm when Garrosh was made the new War Chief, and he has made several massive cock-ups since given that job. Now, on the surface it actually makes sense. Garrosh has always been incredibly hot-headed, warmongering, aggressive, believing that any semblance of diplomacy between the Horde and the Alliance to be completely pointless, and that the Horde should just conquer Azeroth. An interestingly familiar mentality, considering Garrosh never actually drank the blood of Manaroth. Garrosh has always shown to have, at best, great distrust, and at worst, outright hatred for any other race that isn't an Orc. However, even he isn't so stupid as to be blind to the fact that the Orcs are stronger standing beside the Tauren and Trolls and other races of the Horde. So, openly standing against the rest of the Horde and the Alliance together seems not the smartest choice. My main point though is, despite all this, despite how much Garrosh has always pushed to fight everything that isn't part of the Horde, despite all the disrespect to the Tauren, the Trolls, the Undead, there are a few moments that hint that Garrosh originally was being developed to grow as a character. Maybe not to the point where he'd be open to diplomacy with the Alliance like Thrall, but certainly to become a more mature character and War Chief instead of the route that he ended up taking. The first big moment came at the start of Cataclysm. It's Garrosh's ascension, the part where Thrall names him the new War Chief. Up until then, Garrosh had originally been very depressed and unconfident in the Grand, believing he would fail his people like his father did. But after Thrall told him about how Grom died destroying Manaroth, Garrosh was emboldened and joined the Horde, and since then has shown no sign of a lack of confidence. During Wrath of the Lich King, he's always been shown as someone who thinks he knows best, wanting to stamp out the Alliance, even challenging Thrall to a duel in the pre-Wrath event, believing Thrall's desire to be cautious and strategize to be a sign of weakness and a potential threat to the Horde as a whole, wanting instead to simply swarm Northrend, killing any Scourge or Alliance they find. The only time he isn't like this is around Overlord Sourfang, who he actually seems to have a begrudging respect for. However, it's in this scene where Thrall gives Garrosh the title of War Chief, we actually see a glimpse of the same unconfident Garrosh again. We see him show humility as he reluctantly accepts the title, saying he feels unprepared for such a position. He shows respect for Thrall, Vol'jin and the others, accepting their help as advisors to help guide him. He considers multiple ways of solving the issue of the cultists Vol'jin mentions, rather than just saying, we'll find them and kill them, end of story. Right there, we see the potential for a character that, while still wanting to wipe out the Alliance, actually cares about the people he is now responsible for. The second point came at the end of the questline in Stonetalon Mountains. Many of you who have played this area since Cataclysm know exactly what I'm talking about. It's both Garrosh's crowning moment and at the same time becomes his most hypocritical.
What have you done, Kromgar?
War Chief! I was carrying out your command!
My command? Was my command to murder innocents, Kromgar?
War Chief! Sir, I...
Am I a murderer, Kromgar?
No! War Chief!
Then I ask you again, what have you done? I sent you into Stonetalon Mountains with an army. Your orders were to secure this land for the Horde. Instead, you laid waste to the land, murdered innocents, children even. I spent a very long time in Northrend, Kromgar. I learned much about the Horde in that time. While there, a wise old war hero told me something that I would carry with me forever. Honor, Kromgar. No matter how dire the battle, never forsake it. Overlord Kromgar, you have disgraced the Horde. You have brought shame to us as a people. By my right as War Chief, I hereby relieve you of duty. You are dismissed!
Right here, we see Garrosh at undoubtedly his most respectable, as someone who will not tolerate the slaughter of innocents, of children, and especially not of his own allies. Kromgar dropped a considerably powerful goblin bomb on the Night Elves here, Night Elves who Chief Cliffwalker swore posed no threat, and Kromgar not only attacked them anyway, but also killed Cliffwalker's wife, child, and everyone else in the camp. So here's my question. Why would the Garrosh, who would not tolerate this kind of behaviour, then drop a mana bomb on Theramore? Granted, Theramore aided the Alliance and was a foothold for the humans in Kalimdor, but there was no evidence to suggest that the Alliance would attack Orgrimmar from Theramore. It didn't really pose a threat, and after the events of Warcraft 3, Thrall had promised Jaina Proudmoore that Theramore would be left untouched. For all intents and purposes, Theramore was peaceful, and hell, the Kirin Tor aided both the Alliance and the Horde. I don't know about you, but to me that just seems like a rather forced heel turn, despite how warmongering Garrosh has always been. Then, by the end of Mists of Pandaria, there's a full-on rebellion, which really had been inevitable ever since Garrosh kicked Vol'jin out of Orgrimmar, but what's interesting is Garrosh, like his father, became seduced by dark power. Grom drank the blood of Manaroth, Garrosh tried to harness the heart of Yagg-Sharaj, but when Grom was freed from that power he showed regret, and even Saurfang in Northrend tells Garrosh about how after Manaroth died and all the orcs were freed, he was almost driven mad with grief over the things he had done. Meanwhile, after Garrosh is dethroned and stripped of his power, he shows no remorse and instead seems proud of what he's done. In the novel War Crimes, he claims he would do it all over again 1,000 times. This just doesn't fit with me. It stinks of trying to force Garrosh to be the despicable, hateful bastard the fans saw him as, instead of the complex character he had the potential to be. He could have been a great leader, a champion of the Horde to unite the races and strengthen them, like Thrall originally intended him to. Sure, he would never have been the diplomat Thrall is, but if he was, what would be the point in him even being there? And this brings me to my own speculation. I have 3 main theories about what could be happening, or rather what I hope is happening. First is a theory suggested by my friend Stacy, aka Shady6, who believes that the bones that Garrosh wears over his shoulders are actually the bones of Manaroth, which Thrall had as trophies in Orgrimmar that disappeared at the time Garrosh was given his new model at the start of Cataclysm. This is proven by the fact that the shoulders actually dropped from Garrosh in Siege of Orgrimmar and are named the Tusks of Manaroth. She believes that the Tusks are exuding some residual demonic influence which has been affecting Garrosh all through Cataclysm and Mists due to his constant contact with them. I really like this theory. I think it could work. The second theory, like I mentioned before, is the driving force behind everything Garrosh has done, the excluding of the Trolls and Tauren, etc. from his new Horde, the corruption of the Veil of Eternal Blossoms, believing he can stand against the power of the Alliance and the rest of the Horde combined, and even his reaction to being called to account for all of his crimes, all stem from the same thing: pride. And what was the massive Shah you fight in Siege of Orgrimmar? The Shah of Pride. What if this entire thing was just Garrosh being corrupted by the Old Gods, similarly to how Deathwing was? Granted, it'd be kind of a stretch for the Shah to have affected him before he even set foot on Pandaria, but the Old Gods have shown to have great power and a far reach before, and we've yet to see Enzarf yet, so we don't know what they're capable of. Lastly is a theory not about why Garrosh has done all these things, but rather what he might do in the future. I know this last theory is very unlikely, but consider the possibility. In the comic Gul'dan and the Stranger, released just today, we see Garrosh visit Gul'dan and discuss what he plans to do with the Horde, and it ends with Garrosh swearing Hellscream will appear on the mountain where the orcs plan to drink the blood of Manaroth. And as Garrosh puts it, the orcs will embrace their true fate. Obviously this means he plans to assume control at this point and begin forming his Iron Horde, but consider what could happen if Garrosh and Grom did drink the blood. The old Garrosh would never have even considered this, but this Garrosh has already used the power of the Old Gods, a far worse crime. So it's not that unbelievable that this Garrosh would drink the blood, and there's no denying it would make Garrosh, who's already a considerable force to be reckoned with, even more powerful. It could be something really cool to play around with and make for an awesome boss in the new Warlords of Draenor. What do you guys think? What are your theories on why Garrosh is the way he is, and what do you think will happen in Warlords? Leave a comment below, thank you for watching, and goodbye.